So first of all, I'm coming to you from outside. I am currently running my dogs, so I will occasionally be, like throwing with this big ball thrower. And that is part of what I want to talk to you about today. Something that you might have been noticing on the interwebs, particularly from the DevRel community, is a emphasis on more authentic and less scripted video content. If you haven't seen some of these videos, just go on Twitter, go check them out, because there's some really, really amazing conversations happening about the tech industry, about how we connect with developers, how we create content that is relevant for developers, and how we ensure that the companies and products or just ideas that we are representing when we do create this content is appropriately targeting, and I don't mean targeting in like a marketing term, but targeting in terms of like, or let's put it this way, is actually beneficial for the people that we intended the content to be for. As you can tell, this video is not scripted, but part of this conversation that happened in our team meeting today and then in kind of our group chat this morning is the idea that one thing that DevRel or like that advocates tend to be good at, and I don't mean every advocate, I don't mean that you have to be good at this to be a good advocate, because advocacy looks different for different people or at different companies. But one thing is the ability to create authentic video content. And something that can kind of be a challenge is we have kind of an idea of what effective technical content looks like. And when YouTube was kind of the platform for creating this content, it was very similar, right? It was like, here is a tutorial on how to do this. Maybe at the very beginning, there was like a face of someone saying, hello, I am Sarah, and I'm going to teach you today how to integrate Azure machine learning into your machine learning project. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. But my point is, and then I would, share my screen and go through it and zoom in and give you a technical demo. And then, came more of the live coding, live streaming era where everyone essentially had, maybe a nice background or a green screen background. Maybe they had like their keyboard showing, maybe even like a camera on their fingers on the keyboard, having like chat on the side. And that was a different type of video where it was kind of a video, kind of not, but essentially it's like, creating this video content that is live. And so there's a different cadence. You have moments of like, aha, and like excitement and chatting with people and stopping your technical explanation to just chat about the weather because something wild just happened and this is happening live. And then came kind of this era of TikTok and, Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And we entered into this different era where advocates were doing, skits or kind of like comedy bits. But also a lot of companies and or individuals invested in identifying effective ways to still give kind of technical demos in this type of format with just kind of like a phone and doing so. And I think, some of I was lucky enough to kind of witness how Microsoft was approaching this when they first started the VS Code TikTok, for example. And something that we kind of collectively talked about today in my kind of circles is this idea that nobody taught us this stuff, right? Like as advocates, nobody said, this is how you do it. Nobody gave us a course on it. Nobody told us, this is the kind of camera you need. This is the kind of microphone you need. You need to have this type of lighting. We learned it through either watching other people do it or asking our friends for advice or trying things and getting feedback about people saying that it wasn't good enough. And I think, it's good in that we were able to somewhat discover it ourselves. And I think as engineers, that is something that we enjoy doing. We like to tinker with things. We like to try things out for ourselves. I don't want to just follow a tutorial necessarily. I might start with a tutorial and then I'm just going to like start adding other random things. And this is something that I used to tell my students when I used to teach, whether they were children or they were undergraduates. I would tell them, it's important to maybe start with the thing that you're trying to learn, but then try something else. Just like, what will happen? And this is actually why when I was an undergrad, I was a pre-med major. I wanted to be a medical doctor my whole career. And, I failed chemistry and, I was like, I don't think I like this. I don't like memorizing to be quite honest. And a lot of being a medical doctor requires memorization. So I wanted to find something that required more problem solving, because what I actually wanted to do with a medical degree was, do research on asthma, because, I think that research is fascinating. Long story short, I discovered computer science. And one of the things I used to always say is like, with computer science, if you mess up, you just, Control C and restart. When you're a doctor and you mess up, someone could die. So obviously that could still happen if you're a developer and you want to take certain applications very seriously, or all of them, frankly. But long story short, I really enjoyed the fact that you could tinker, that ultimately within the right environments, you weren't going to hurt someone by not doing it perfectly. And I think that is something that we have lost, because, at least for advocates, because when you're learning new tech, you often have that tutorial that you can kind of start from, or you can at least read through and then go do your own thing. Or you even just have the docs, right? Like you have the docs of things that you can read through and understand how they work and then kind of build your own thing. But when it comes to creating content, we don't have that. We do have a couple people who've made, this is how I record, blah, blah, blah. But it's not just about like your recording setup, because that implies that you have to have a recording setup. That implies that if you wanted to walk your dogs and have a conversation about a technical topic, that's not where you should have those conversations. And I don't think that that's true. I think that you should create content wherever and however it feels natural for you to do that, or it will be effective for people to receive and understand it. So yeah, I'm not gonna, do a technical demo as I'm running my dogs, but I might want to have an interesting discussion. I think Twitter Spaces kind of started helping with this, where people could just have these interesting technical discussions regardless of where they were. They could be, on the train, they could be walking their dogs, they could be doing whatever, and it didn't really matter. But they could still engage in a technical conversation and progress kind of the discourse around technical topics. And I think that that's important. Additionally, I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit in the skills that we have to be able to create content. And because we don't give ourselves that credit, and because we don't have tutorials or docs or kind of like retrospectives of how people create content and kind of sharing that, we're losing the scaffold that as engineers we have in order to allow us to effectively tinker with tech and with code. And because of that, I think we're also losing the pause of, do I want to do it this way? Because we don't have this active discourse on is this the right way to do it? What is good about this? Who is this type of format for? Why, etc. So when you're gonna go make a technical demo, you just say, great, I'm going to make a technical demo. Let me sit at my computer, turn on my Sony, camera, turn on all of my, lights, get my good microphone out, make sure that I have, no echoes going on, zoom in my screen and, turn off all notifications and begin. Whether you have a script or not, that's kind of what you do. But why? Why don't we take a moment to think about why we do it that way? For some cases, we should continue to do it that way, but for others, I don't think we should. And something that Salma mentioned this morning was in making her videos that are more personal, she essentially kind of took the tinkering that we do when we're learning new tech or new languages or whatever, new tools. And she did that with content. And I'm going to go on one last tangent. So we were also talking about, we've been actively talking about within my team kind of this idea of what purpose DevRel serves, particularly within Sentry, but in the broader industry as a whole. And we have this, Selma's been working on this really interesting kind of series about how she has been focusing on improving the performance of her personal website. And I was like, it's not dog fooding. It's a different word. And here's kind of what I came up with. When you want to go horseback riding, and you go, I mean, I've been once as a child, part of Girl Scout camp, so I'm not like a rider. So forgive me if I say this incorrectly, but you go and the horse is prepared and it's got a saddle and it's got like the reins and it's got the stirrups and you get up and you do it a certain way. That is kind of like the docs or the tutorials or even like the marketing materials in tech. But if you want to just kind of like feel the horse and understand how you and the horse kind of like behave together, then you might ride the horse bareback. And that's kind of what I think DevRel brings to the table that we don't often recognize. It's not just dog fooding. It's not just trying out our own product and giving feedback to the product teams. Yes, do we do that? Of course. Here, Ruby, let me get that stick off of you. Of course we do that. But it's also experiencing like the rawness of developing real applications so that we experience authentically what our users are likely experiencing before they decide to use our product or before they benefit from the product. It's kind of like riding a horse bareback versus with a saddle. And I think that that's important. And so, that's from a technical sense. Come here, Ruby, and I'll take that off for you. That's from a technical sense of like, we create samples, and that way we kind of like experiment with the use cases that hopefully our product can help developers with. But that's the trend that I'm seeing now with more and more advocates creating these more authentic pieces of content that don't follow these arbitrary rules that nobody set, but we all kind of follow. I feel like what we're doing now is we're just trying things. We're just riding the content horse without a saddle. We are understanding that when I want to have a more conversational type video, I cannot do that indoors. That is not something that works for me. When I want to have a more conversational, when I want to create a more conversational video, I need to be walking around. I need to be looking at the trees. I need to be feeling the cool air or the warm air. I need to be outside. If I am at a desk, if I'm looking at a computer, if I am, surrounded by walls, I cannot do it. what do I sacrifice as a result? I sacrifice potentially the quality of my video. I sacrifice the audio quality. I'm using my AirPods. I could potentially get like a microphone if that becomes important to me. I sacrifice potentially the focus of my video, as you can probably tell from this one. But I am kind of just learning that this is the type of environment and the way in which I need to create this type of content. Do people care about this type of content? I don't know. That's to be determined for any of us. But for me, I think that it's important that I give myself this time to reflect on how I'm leading my team, to reflect on the business impact that DevRel can have to the company I work for, and to reflect on the skills that advocates develop without having guidelines, courses, tutorials, retros, comparisons, etc. We don't have any of that, or maybe we have like a little bit of that, and maybe we're starting to see more of that, but we don't have as much as we do with new, technology when it comes to docs and tutorials and things like that. And I'm excited to start to see us as kind of like a sub-industry to the tech industry, share that, give space to learn that. And so anyways, I invite you all to share some of your tips. What is your favorite way to create content, whether it's written or video or audio? What does your setup look like? What does your prep look like? What does your post-production look like? What does your sharing look like? How do you reach the people with your content that you want to reach? I like Selma is, this is a sneak peek. I'm not going to tell you who, but she's going to be on a podcast episode soon. And the host asked her, where can people find your content on this that you're talking about? And she replied, if you're meant to find it, you will. And I loved that, because for that specific type of content, it is not something that she is trying to get people to consume. It is something that the people who would benefit from consuming it, because of the nature of how she's sharing it over social media, they will eventually come across it. So like, what does your quote unquote promotional plan look like? Even if that quote unquote promotional plan is nil, right? So anyways, long story short, let's start sharing. Let's start compiling this information. Let's start, sharing what are your tips for making the best voiceovers for technical videos? What are your tips for making the best tutorial videos? What are your tips for, when you're live coding? What are your tips? And again, the tips for all of the above. Let's start sharing it. Let's start creating those docs and tutorials, and let's start growing the knowledge base of our industry so that more people can continue to develop better and better content. All right, that's my random thought for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. We've just entered spring. We've got these gorgeous kind of like fog coming over the river, and I'm almost done running my dogs. Bye, everyone. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I just got off my team meeting with Salma and Lazar, and then I also just got out of a group chat with some of my other good friends, Chloe and Brian and Cecil, and I just felt compelled to create this quick video for you now.